go. I want to just say thank you to Avorius, who were the sponsor of our coffee break and the amazing entertainment. And without further ado, we're going to go straight into a pretty heavyweight panel, experts in their field, and I'm excited to hear what they have to say. They'll explore the undeniable rise of the Indian travel market. And I think between them, they probably have multiple years, nothing on your age, just experience. And they're going to join us to share their insights. So without further ado, I'm going to welcome Wouter Bush from Focusrite.
Hello.
Over to you.
Come up. What an intro. Guys, we have to beat that now. Let's not put the audience to sleep. Hello, welcome back from a good coffee break. My name is Walter. I'm with Focusrite, a travel research company. I'm really excited for this panel today about the rise of the influence of India in travel, which is undeniable, as Katie said. I have a few slides just to show you some numbers. So one, it's not big news, but India has almost 1.5 billion people, the most populous country in the world. And that sheer scale sets the stage. But it's not only about size, it's also about momentum. And if you looked at almost half of India's population is 25 years or younger. They're all ambitious, digitally native. There's some wind. What does that mean for travel? There is a huge momentum. These people start exploring and start traveling as well. Also, the economic momentum is a big one. If you see the GDP rose from 2,300 to will be almost at $4,000 by 2027. That means there will be a lot of discretionary income or discretionary spending, and one of the highest spending categories as soon as a society reaches that level, or if the income reaches a certain level, is travel. That is a priority. So travel won't be luxury anymore for the middle class. It becomes a lifestyle. So there is, again, a huge headroom for growth in the Indian market. Another thing you can see is the infrastructure story. What you see behind me is the number of aircrafts that are currently in the order book. It's more than 2,000. The number of airports has doubled since 2014, and it will be, I believe, 200 by the end of the year. So that also connects like the tier 2 and tier 3 cities and allow access to the growing middle class of India to travel. It's not just the airports, it's also the government is pouring a lot of money in the infrastructure of roads and railways, so that will all also pay into the growth of India. Here are some numbers from our research. So in 2023, the total gross booking in India reached almost $38 billion, and we project that it will grow by more than 10% over the next couple of years, getting to almost $57 billion by 2027. So those are concrete indicators that the market is really stepping into global prominence on the travel side. What's unique about India is also how tech-forward the travelers are. You see that there is like 60% of the gross bookings are done online, which is not, at the moment it's 55, it will reach 61% by 2027, which is not necessarily huge compared to other countries. But if you break down the channels on OTAs and direct book and supplier direct bookings, you see that the OTAs are way stronger than in many other countries. So I think especially for that audience, that is an interesting take. Offline channels, while still significant at 45%, are gradually ceding ground to, I forgot to do that. Offline channels are gradually ceding ground to digital intermediaries, and OTAs are expected to grow even further. And if you drill even a little bit deeper, this mobile first comes to life. You see that currently 68% of all the online bookings are made on mobile devices. So that is definitely higher than in most other markets that we are looking at. So that is will grow even further the next couple of years, especially on the air and hotel distribution. So, in short, there is a lot of fundamentals that will pay into the growth. There's also like more than 60 countries now allowing visa-free entry or entry at arrival or visa at arrival for Indians. So all of that is setting the stage for really huge growth of India and the travel of India. And today we are joined by some of the most influential leaders in travel in India. The visionaries who are building platforms, are already very successful in the markets and forging the future of it. So please join me in welcoming Jaal Shah, sitting over there. He is the founder of Reslight. Bhanu Chopra at the very end, founder and chairman of RateGain. Fernando, the founder and CEO of Travelings. And Rajnish Kumar, the director and group CEO of ixigo. So together we now explore what the influence of India, the Indian market in travel is. So let's dive in. First question. So India is now being seen as the powerhouse of global travel. What are the top two drivers you see behind India's surging travel market, both outbound and inbound? And I start with you, Rajnish, you're sitting the closest.
Sure. I think I would call that trend premiumization, which essentially means that there is this consumer trend of moving towards higher value, higher price and higher quality products and services, which delivers better experience, value, and quality. And the reason for that is that India has just reached that tipping point of disposable income, where the traditional income that they have is enough to push them towards discretionary spends, and travel being like the top recall in mind when it comes to discretionary spend. So there is this trend of people trying to buy stuff which otherwise they would not have bought. For example, there's this movement from people who were booking trains and buses, they're now upgrading to flights. And we are seeing that because recently we built a product called Travel Guarantee. And India is a very unique place in that sense, because train tickets that you buy in India, 30% of them are waitlisted, which means that you need to wait till the last day of travel to figure out whether you can travel in the train or not. And so we built this product called Travel Guarantee, which gives you a guarantee of a confirmed seat. If you don't get a confirmed seat, then you'll get 3x refund back in the form of vouchers, which can be used to redeem a flight or a bus ticket. So we've seen that trend happen. At the moment we launched this product, there was so much adoption. People were just like willing to move from trains and buses to flights. The other trend that we are also seeing is in premiumization is that, Goa used to be the top leisure destination in India for the longest time, for as long as I can remember, for donkey years. And then we are seeing now this trend that people are ditching Goa for destinations like Vietnam, Bangkok, Abu Dhabi, Dubai, Singapore, etc. And I think it's happening because of the same reason that, a lot of these infrastructure investment that has happened in our country, it has allowed us. So for example, like just in the last decade, more than 600 airports across tier 2-3 cities got connected, and this has connected like even tier 2-3 cities. Now, Vietjet, which is a low-cost carrier from Vietnam, is flying not just from Delhi, Bangalore, and Mumbai, but it's also flying from Ahmedabad and Kochi. We are like tier 2 cities in India, right? So there are people in tier 2-3 cities who can actually take an international flight and fly directly to Vietnam, or Thailand, or Singapore, or Dubai for that matter. And then the other thing that is happening on the premiumization also is that a lot of these people, so there's this misconception that people living in tier 2-3 cities with low disposable income, they're very price conscious. But that's not true. They're actually value conscious, which means that if you sell products and services on top of your core products, there will be adoption for that. So, we had this feeling that if we sell free cancellation, so we built something called Assured, which gives a guarantee of full refund, no questions asked, instantly refunded back to you, like within seconds, if you try to cancel. And we thought people won't be willing to pay like 10-15% premium on the fair value And we were wrong. And somebody who's buying a 10 euro train ticket is willing to spend 1.5, or even 2 euros to buy free cancellation because, you know why? Because they value the 10 euros more than the 2 euros that they're willing to pay because that's how they're protecting their fare, right, against unforeseen. And I think most of these products that they build, thanks to COVID, like when COVID happened, like there was so much uncertainty around travel, that we built products like Assured and Flex, which allowed us, and this is also another trend on premiumization, where we're seeing people are attaching. So across all of our products, ancillary and value-added services that we build, we're seeing like almost 30% people attach them, which means like 100 ticket sold will have 30 of them having some of these value-added products sold. And this is really good because, I mean, it's a win-win because these products are inherently creating a lot of value for customers because it's something that did not exist. Like there was no, blanket free cancellation or flexibility product across all airlines and all modes of transport available with the same honest guarantee that no questions asked, no fine print, and you can cancel whenever you want up to 6 hours before departure, and you'll get all your money back instantly, right? So it's good for customers. It's good for us because it kind of reduces our dependence on traditional sources of revenue, like commissions, et cetera, and allows us to kind of diversify away from that. And obviously, it's like margin accretive as well. So basically, not just revenue side, but margins are far better on that side of the business than on the commission side. So yeah, I mean, that's what I think. Like, I think that's one of the big things. And I think we are lucky that we were actually one of the early movers in the next billion user space because, at the time we started going after the next billion user in India, there was no monetization in line of sight. So most of the product services that we built, they were mostly about solving some core customer pain area. It was about, your ticket is waitlisted, so I'll build an AI model which will predict whether your ticket will get confirmed or not. Or trains are not GPS equipped, so I'll build a Google Waze-like location tracking platform which will crowdsource location data from every device where people are using my app on the trains to locate the train in real time. Which doesn't exist because India trains are not GPS equipped. So I think most of these things were unmonetizable use cases solving some core customer pain areas. And I think that's why we are a very different OTA in that sense because most OTAs were built inside out in the sense that you start with monetization and then you go to the fringes and you try to kind of monetize from non-transactional use cases, but we started outside in. So we started by building around the fringes and then came back to actually selling tickets, which was much later in our lifetime.
Good. Albert, you're specialized in getting people cross-border movements, right, with Travelwing. So please chime in what Rajnish mentioned. Do you see the trend as well that people are moving from train to plane, going from Goa to Thailand, Vietnam, or other destinations?
No, absolutely. As Rajnish mentioned, there is a change in customers from going from domestic travel down to international travel back in India. But again, if I just take a step back and look at how many customers have been traveling initially even on flights, right? So I think ixigo really played an important role in terms of getting those consumers online in the first place. When I say online, which consumers? In India, the biggest set of travelers are people who travel on trains. That's the biggest segment of customers. Today, if I look at it back in the Indian subcontinent, 83% of those transactions happen online, which means it used to be offline going into a normal shop and buying a ticket, but now we have transformed those consumers to start booking online. So that's the first phase. Now, since they've started booking online, now when they start looking at travel commodities being shopped online, there's a big surge of consumers starting to start evolving into that kind of an experience. Like, fine, I know how to book online. I booked my trains online. Now let me book my flights online. That's the second stage. The third stage is what actually Rajnish mentioned. Yes, from there, now they start looking at going outside the countries, which means with a very young population and who have now started booking things online for the biggest segment of travel, which is rail, which is now transforming down to low-cost carriers, now goes down to international travel. So that basically gives a surge in terms of what's going to happen with consumers booking in the Indian subcontinent to travel, and that's where the exponential growth is looked upon.
Okay. So, Jaal, what you're good at is connecting the tier 2, tier 3 cities into travel, helping digitizing travel agents out there and so on. So give me your the two most important drivers you see in the market?
Yeah, I mean, first, big shout out for such a fantastic event, this opportunity. Super excited here, getting more charge via my solar panel constantly. So now coming back to India, I mean, there's this big talk about tier 2 and tier 3 city, right? Now, I think the fundamental is if you look at the population of tier 2 city, could be 50% of some of the big European cities and can replace some country, right? So it brings all the attribute. I think what is good is how world is looking at the Indian travel. We always had a very complete travel segment as India. So we have this group travel, traditional tour operator, which is not dying. It may not be growing to the levels the Indian online travel is growing, but it's still surviving because, under group travel, you have, a travel which is, food specific, certain community driven. Then we have a MICE, which is rising, and I think it's very important to mention that travel, how Indian corporates, IT, or banking segments are growing. So that's bringing a lot of value. And then obviously the leisure and online, which all of us touch upon. I mean, talking to Rajnish point on Viajet, because I'm from Ahmedabad, they have 2 flights every day. And how it's structured is you can go to Hanoi and Ho Chi, and you could kind of make a 7-night itinerary because it flies, 3 days apart. You look at the example of UAE as a country where, India is an important market. Based on to your American visa, it started about 2 years ago. You could get a visa on arrival for Indian. And these sort of customizations are not done for all. So that's the rise of India, which is multiplying. And that brought, when we looked at our numbers, today a lot of people with valid US visa now extended to Canada and Schengen are planning a Dubai trip, which is, on a same day or a next day. That's backed by more connectivity, airports and stuff we talked about. I think important also to look at how 2-tier cities are rising is our road connectivity and infrastructure investment today, which is made in India. The commuting time between key cities, so to touch the airport, has reduced quite drastically. So it's no longer the days where, I started traveling maybe about 25 years ago. I had to go to Bombay. Today, people from Ahmedabad and nearby and cities like this, which has huge population, are coming. See, today we are growing towards world's fastest, largest economy. India today is the global voice of South. And we'll continue to see Indian market evolve, both online, offline, on all front. And you will see the drivers are from these 2-3 cities, aspiration being one, the connectivity is being one, and the rise of economy in general, right? So today the Indian middle class, which is a large segment of our country, is empowered on the spending habit. And it's shown even when you look at the broader economic terms, the foreign brands, be it luxury, retail, and other space, their investment in India kind of reflects what we are going to witness over the next year. So as more aircraft, more airports, and the other function which the government is putting in effort kind of come true, we are going to see a very solid dream run of Indian traveling everywhere.
Do you see in the tier 2, tier 3 cities, and I agree,
Yeah.
many of them are way bigger than the biggest cities in Europe, do you see more offline bookings than online compared to the tier 1 cities, or is it the opposite?
So I think, see, there's a pressure at even travel agent, because today with the rise of social media, today let's not forget the kind of connectivity of data which we have. When we launched Reslive in 2007, there was no 3G in India. My computer could barely connect to Wi-Fi because not Wi-Fi was available everywhere, including the hotels you used to stay. Forget about paying, which used to be in West. We never had Wi-Fi. From there today to the influence of data, the growth of Indian telecom has allowed people in 2 and 3 tier city to be more informative about travel blogging to various other stuff. And that's where, there is this reverse trend where, you have more online influence because your traditional destination, which used to be booked by travel agent, where via DMCs and conventional channel may not be able to offer those experience or the typecast Indian itineraries which used to sell today, right? I mean, way back 15 years, average Indian European trip used to be for 15 days and people used to cover 12 countries, and I'm not joking. I mean, we still have some tour operators selling it, you're just hopping on. From there today, you have a winter travel to Switzerland. Look at the special interest travel, travel like ski, travel like sports-driven tourism today, and we just spoke before how Indians are going and watching everything. So I think it's not about 2 and 3, but 2 and 3 because, this is a new opportunity for them. They have affordability and connectivity. These are the real drivers. But having said that, all your other segments are still growing from the large city, and they are also an important travel destinations coming out of India.
Okay. And Bhanu, 98% of your business is outside of India. So how are you balancing this product market fit? Do you now want to do more in India, or do you see India more as a back office for RateGain?
Yeah, so when I started the company, just to give you context on how that came into being, I was actually in the US and wanted to build a meta search site. And that's how I started the business. And when I decided to pivot into more being B2B, I realized very, very quickly that at that time, the opportunity would lie in the US. And that's why if you look at our revenue configuration right now, 60% comes from the US, 25% from Europe, and 15% from APAC. So I think the point that you drove about utilizing the labor arbitrage, I think that's worked very, very well for us because we are one of the few SaaS companies that are profitable. But going forward, yes, this is something that I think about constantly, given the fact that I'm based in India as well, and there is a huge opportunity, both in terms of outbound and inbound. I mean, I was at a couple of conferences just very, very recently, which were in India, and I can tell you every hotel CEO was there. So there is huge amount of interest to build in India, and as you know, the supply hasn't really caught up with the demand in terms of creating those experiences in India. So it is a big focal point. We are now investing quite significantly because our solutions are applicable to the APAC and Indian market as well. So there is a huge push now to drive more market share there.
Okay. Let's segue into technology, and I stay with you, Bhanu. I heard you once say you're building software that doesn't just work, but work together. So do you see more challenges in a market like China, that the data is more fragmented, or the interoperability, that there are more challenges, or is it comparable to other markets?
Yeah, so we tried our hand in China, and we failed quite terribly and miserably, so we decided to get out of there. But if you're generally asking me about sort of where technology and software is going to go, I think AI is the biggest thing that I've seen. You know, since my working career, what it can do, how we live, how we work, it is changing, but it's going to change dramatically. I was making a comment to Rajnish earlier. I think we are underestimating at this point the power of what it can do. When it applies to us, I think anybody here in the room can become a tech company today. I think all of us will become, who are in SaaS and tech, will basically become wrappers of LLMs. It is really going to level the playing field. And I think the people who are going to really win are people who really build great and strong distribution platforms and how they distribute their software. So I think our world is going to change quite significantly.
Yeah, AI probably changes all our, it changes it for all of us on how we search, book, and engage. But in general, for India, how was the digital transformation? How did it reshape the way that Indian travelers, technology in general, search, book, and engage? So Rajnish, I think you saw a big shift, especially on ixigo, right? With,
we have seen a big shift in how people are planning booking, but I think one of the areas which is directly impacted by technology is the post-book experience. Like, I think if you think about most OTAs, for them the finish line is selling a ticket. You know, if you go to any of the OTA website, you'll see that last 3 seats left, or 2 minutes before this deal expires, or only 5 rooms left, etc. Like, they're all obsessed with just making people transact, and that's it, and get the money, and that's it. Like, nobody focuses on what happens afterward, where this actually should be focusing on, the journey should actually start after the ticket is booked. Because there's so much, like if you book a ticket on ixigo, a flight ticket, we automatically will figure out a way to check you into the flight just before the flight check-in opens. There's a bot that will go based on your preferences. It will find the best seat, it will check you in. It will take the boarding pass, it will put it inside the Apple Wallet if you use iPhone, it will put it in the Google Wallet if you're using Android. And then on the day of departure, it will figure out what time you should leave for the airport. It will tell you which terminal to head to. Once you get to the terminal, its geofence to figure out what check-in counter you should head to. And all of this is happening on iOS, for example, on live activity, which is just sitting on your home screen. So you don't even have to open the app. Like, you just have your phone in your hand, and you can actually see, okay, you have to head to the check-in counter 25. And once you check in, after that, what's the boarding gate, and when the last call happens for your boarding. Once you're inside the flight, it starts working in offline mode to tell you when your flight will arrive at the destination and which baggage belt to go and collect your baggage from. So I think there's this fundamental shift that I was talking about earlier about you cannot be relevant as a travel company if you're not engaging with the traveler in every phase of travel. And I think this is something that OTAs missed in the last generation. And I think if you look at the offline human travel agents, they were extremely good at the first part of it, where they could, you could ask any questions and engage with them, and they would be hand-holding you during the conversion funnel, et cetera, right? Right now, they all, but they did not do the hand-holding when you were at the destination, for example, right? Once your ticket is booked, they also like their handoff, right? So I think with AI, the opportunity here is that the entire experience, whether it is from inspiration to actually booking a ticket, because booking a ticket can also be very distracting. Like, if you're booking a flight which has a connection at London and this is a 45-minute layover, the first question that comes to your head is the terminal change going to happen in 45 minutes? Like, and then I have to get out of the funnel to go and find that information somewhere else or call a friend. Or if the layover is 8 hours, then the question would be, do I need a transit visa? And if I'm booking a ticket to an international destination, I don't know what's the typical visa approval rates, or if I need a visa and for how long. Because I might end up booking a ticket for next week, but my visa will get approved 2 weeks later. So who's going to tell me all of that inside the funnel? Nobody, right? But AI can actually do that. It can actually tell you all of that because it has all of that information online and in real time available. And I think this is where the fundamental experience of booking travel will change, because travel will become from transactional to conversational, natural, multimodal, obviously, because it needs to be able to hear you, see what you're seeing, etc. And it needs to be extremely preemptive and hyper-personalized. It should know what you're doing, what you've been. Like, I mean, one of the things about AI is prediction, right? And I think most of the predictive stuff about AI is really, really cool. Like, it's almost like, saying that, can I predict your next trip and when you should be taking that? Can I predict disruptions and delays of flight? Can I predict if the fares will go up or down? Because if I can, then I can build a price log product and I can sell it to you, because I know I can underwrite that, right, based on my algorithms. So I think this is one fundamental change. And then the other change is that AI today, for us at least, is solving most of our chat queries. Like 92, 93% of our chat queries are solved by AI. But not just chat, like voice-to-voice agents. Like 50% of all my phone calls are end-to-end handled by AI, and you would not believe that it has better NPS than human beings. So fundamentally, I think the whole digital transformation is led today by AI. Anybody who's not on that bus is going to miss it completely.
Yeah. And I think with soon almost 75% being the bookings already on mobile, so you have people already on the device where you can reach them better. I think that will
absolutely.
That's
absolutely.
Definitely. So talking about mobile, is desktop still relevant? Is desktop still relevant at the moment? Desktop. Is it still relevant to develop for desktop? No, whoever wants to jump in.
I can hear you.
Desktop.
Desktop.
Is it still relevant?
No, I think desktop is
it's mobile first and mobile only.
It's completely mobile. And probably from an AI perspective, sorry, do we have time?
I don't see it. Good. I think. Oh, that's. Is that a question from the audience? Sorry, I can read it from here. Are there specific industries benefiting most from India's rising travel? Who wants to pick that up? Are there specific industries benefiting most from India's rising travel?
I think from the rise of travel, of course, there are many hoteliers across the world. I mean, that's the travel industry. But apart from that, I think electronics, because people are really going out and buying a lot of stuff outside the country. There's a lot of shopping travel happening as well. I would say transportation outside the countries would really work on land arrangements, activities, DMCs. All of them are basic, and especially the shopping industry for sure.
Yeah. Anyone else want to chime in?
I think the time just went off.
Yeah, I mean, I think apart from the direct beneficiaries, which is like OTAs and airlines and hotels, I think people who are in the last mile business, they're also benefiting. Like, and I see that there's a lot of trend about people traveling for multiple reasons now, not just because of leisure or because of seeing their relatives or for business, but we are seeing a different trend where spiritual tourism is driving travel in India. I mean, the Mahakumbh Mela in 2025, where I think almost 500 million visited one city in a span of, I think, 30, 45 days, which was the biggest, spiritual congregation in the whole world in the history of the planet. That drove tons of travel, like concerts and sports in India drive the famous Indian Premier League, and now, Coldplay and Dua Lipa are driving. Like we saw, bookings jump almost 4x on the weekend on which there was a Coldplay or a Dua Lipa. I'm not going to pick one of the two. I think both of them drove.
It's in general, the Indian OTAs are moving towards super apps as well. So there is a big ambition towards that. And there is probably some industry that can benefit from that as well. Like maybe super apps also help the non-travel companies like banks come into play, currency conversions, things like that. So who wants to jump in a little bit on the super app aspirations, like the loyalty part, the content part, insurance, forexes? Who of you is already working towards that or providing content to other super app companies?
I think, if you have large distribution, so last year we had 500 million annual active users, right? And that's like more than 1/3 the population of the country. If you have that kind of distribution, it's like you have a mall where people come and they don't find a category. If they don't find a category, they go find somewhere else to kind of book that category. So it won't make sense for any travel company with fairly large distribution to not be into each of these verticals, right? I mean, you can't just be selling flights, trains, and buses. You've got to sell hotels, packages, cabs, activities, everything. You've got to do that at some point of time, and not just because it makes sense, just also because the markets are going to look for growth, and you need to find, there needs to be a phase of growth that will drive, each of these verticals will drive, right? So I think the trend of being the super app is a secular trend, and I think most of the travel companies which have large distribution would eventually have to do that. But I think just doing that is not good enough. I think unless these travel companies do not look above and beyond just the booking experience, I don't think they will have any significant moat in the future. Because even AI platforms could start getting into commerce, which is what the whole thing about commerce is, right? I mean, I think earlier Google was the gatekeeper of traffic. Now AI will be the gatekeeper of every question or query you will have in your head. And if they can natively, end-to-end close the loop on what you want to do, then you don't even get a customer on your platform. You just become like a supplier, which is just operating at the back end. So you don't have any customer acquisition in that sense, unless you have a moat, that is.
We're running out of time, but there's one question I want to ask, and that is, are the global destinations ready for the Indian traveler? And that is, I would refer for you, you are bringing a lot of Indians cross-border, but I believe main destinations are Middle East and Africa. How does it look beyond that? Probably Middle East has been dealing with Indian clients for a longer time. How is it if Europe, US?
I think always for the Indians, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
The microphone is off?
So for the Indian market, always Europe has been one of the topmost destinations from a holiday perspective. But again, getting visas has been a problem. A lot of other countries have opened up, and now different segments of consumers have started traveling to different destinations. Within the Indian subcontinent cluster, Nepal, Sri Lanka, all those different places, there's a lot of surge coming in there as well. And apart from that, the Pan-African continent is another segment where people have started traveling to a lot, because many countries, Indians don't require a visa. They basically travel there a lot. We have been seeing a lot of travel because we have a very big footprint across Africa. And we see a huge segment of consumers basically traveling down to the Pan-African continent for the holidays as well.
Yeah. And Jaal, you have this, again, these smaller cities. Do you see a difference in the needs that they have versus the urban elite who have been traveling for a longer time?
Yes, India has been a very seasonal market, and depends upon the geography and tier 2 and tier 3. We've seen a drastic change because, as we spoke before, the connectivity kind of is the largest enabler. Who would have thought, a destination like Vietnam will gross from India and significantly contribute. You have a floods of Indian restaurant to Indian compatible tour operators to Indian companies going and opening DMCs there. And this shift only came in 3 years, versus to some of the countries which should have taken a lead. Let's look at, destination like Philippines, which used to come to India, flew few times and got out of the connectivity. Today the numbers are 3 times more on destination like Vietnam. So I think smaller cities will adapt, and a lot of these destination or airline are also planning and putting across their availability so that, they straight away ride on these trends.
Good. Before we wrap up, one more audience question. You covered quite a bit of that, but the question is, what emerging trends in Indian travel should the world pay attention to?
I didn't hear it. It's for me.
What emerging trends in Indian travel should the world pay attention to?
Oh, a lot. I mean, see, India today, one of the trend could be a self-drive rise of an Indian travel. It used to be very restrictive to Australia, destination like South Africa, where Indian could drive because of the side of the drive we drive. That's a very interesting market. Sports and adventure tourism is a rapidly rising, market which is influenced a lot by social, mobile, and other initiatives, and the solo travel from India as well, which is increasing. People really want to explore destinations, and it's no longer a seasonal market. So I think all the trends which are emerging out of India are very important for any destination to focus on.
Okay. Last quick round. If we meet here again in 3 years and talk about the Indian market, what do you think we have missed? Or did everything come true what we discussed today? So just a few thoughts. What's in 3 years? Let's start with you, Rajnish.
So saying in 3 years, where would the Indian market be in terms of travel, or?
Sorry?
So saying in 3 years from now, where
In
would
3 years from now, yeah, where are we? Where are the surprises?
I think India would probably be a force to reckon with, especially on the travel side. I think in terms of just the massive demand that the next billion users are driving in India, I would say that, it's set to kind of overtake maybe, you just think about it, only 4% people fly in India as of today. Just 4% people. And if an airline in India with only 50% market share, where only 4% people fly, can become the largest airline in the world ahead of Delta, then you can just imagine what the potential of the country is.
Albert, you'll be a global OTA?
I'll just go on the tech side, right? So I think what's going to happen 3 years from now, the Indian market would be probably one of those markets which has embraced emotional AI to the most, because Indians are normally emotional customers. I mean, if you just take a step back and let me just go something totally off the shelf, you go to the West, you go to and see all the Disney movies, you have songs, you have all these kind of plays with this. That's what the children like, because children are emotional. If you go back to the Indian movies, any single movie, Hollywood, Bollywood, Collywood, Tollywood, it's a mixture of the same thing of, songs and all. So they're very emotional people. So I think it'll drive all of us to start moving towards emotional AI, understanding what they like, voiceover AI, and all those things is what will be embraced the most probably in the planet.
Thank you. Jaal?
Yeah, I think one of the largest market from Asia, which has adopted AI and the tech disruption efficiently.
And Bhanu, your increase of the Indian market will be more than 2%.
Yes, and I do want to comment on that question as well. I do feel, given the consumerism in India and also the digitization, I think by nature we are more digitally native and we have a younger population. So adoption of digitization and now AI, I think you would see the Indians be a lot more bigger constituent of adoption of that technology. So the way I see it is, given we are more native on AI and tech, I do see a huge change in how people will search and book. I think it was talked about in one of the earlier panels as well. I think 3 years is a long time. I do see all of us having personal AI agents that are going to do the booking and also the post experience. And all of us need to be ready to support that with AI agents on our side. So I do see a fairly large population that is going to be using AI agents to fulfill everything around travel and booking.
Okay, thank you. We heard a lot about the Indian market now. I think it is really the powerhouse of the future, one of the big ones. We talked a lot about being connected, which is the theme of this event as well. That's important everywhere, but especially in the Indian market, connecting all the different dots will be super helpful. Thanks a lot, guys. Rajnish, Albert, Jaal, and Bhanu. Thanks a lot.